Hello, good evening, and welcome to Love Talk. And today we're talking about something that can sometimes be very, very daunting for many people, and that is how to overcome a breakup. It can be something really hard, right?
Yes, as well as to breaking up with someone. Because many people are in not so healthy relationships and they just don't know how to get out of it.
Exactly.
And we are going to, give you a few tips on how to do what you have to do and move on.
And sometimes, like Elena was saying, you are caught in a rut. You don't know what to do there. You think it's not good for you to be there, but you don't know what to do to move on. And hopefully we can help you to open your eyes and see things in a different light and maybe help you in making a decision. We're going to see what the people of London have to say about how to overcome a breakup.
Yeah, I felt like I'd never go over it, really. And just things like that, really. I'd never go over it.
How difficult can a breakup be and why, in your opinion?
How difficult?
Yeah. Have you been through that?
Oh yeah.
However difficult you make it.
Yeah.
Okay. However difficult you make it, it's interesting.
You can make it very easy by just stop talking and change your phone number, change your email, and that's pretty easy. Or you can have a face-to-face and go through the whole emotional spectrum, I guess, with someone, which can be pretty hard. It's as easy as you want to make it. It
depends on how attached you are.
It depends as well if it's an amicable breakup. If you get to a point where you both think, I don't really want this anymore.
Okay.
Or yeah. So if it doesn't work mutually, then you get rid of it. You break up with each other. If you meet someone else,
just move on.
Yeah. It can be hard. It can be easy. It depends.
It's like she said. It depends.
Yeah.
You make it easy or hard.
It's hard to define really because it's different for each situation.
Right.
I think it'd be really difficult because if you build a life together, then essentially you're dismembering your life that you've built up together, and it can be painful.
Is it because maybe you gave too much to that person and you forgot about your personality, who you are and everything?
Yeah, I think that can happen. Yeah, I think sometimes you become just fused together, and then you lose your individuality and stuff.
Welcome back. Now, when you deal with the breakup, there's usually two parts. There's a part where you decide that you no longer want to be in that relationship, so you decide to move on. And then there's a part where you deal with the breakup after the decision. And we're going to talk first of all about this part of making a decision. And sometimes the relationship breaks up because something happened, unfaithfulness. But sometimes you have to decide to move on, and that can be quite tricky, right?
Yeah, it can be, as much as being on the other situation where someone broke up with you and you don't know what to do. But the truth is, if the relationship is going nowhere, if the person is manipulative, if the person is abusing you, if the person has been really, she's not valuing you and doing all, is betraying you, doing all sorts of things, and the person still says to you, if you leave me, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, I'm going to die, or, I'm going to do this and that, It's not easy. Yeah. I mean, depending on the situation, it can also be very tricky.
And of course, we're not saying that every problem merits a breakup, because you don't have to break up because there's a problem, right? Many problems can be solved in relationship. And then there's those things that we usually say here, that the deal breakers, things that you shouldn't really accept, like unfaithfulness. And it's up to you whether you forgive the person or not, but when it's something repetitive that keeps on happening, you may want to choose to move on for various reasons, for your health, for your happiness, your well-being. But
for your children.
For your children.
And also if the person is not married, because majority, nowadays, very soon it will be the majority is not married. And they don't think about marriage, but they are together, they get together with someone, or they're just dating. But some people just are moving very, very fast in their relationship. They're already moving in together and experiencing a lot of problems. And because the person is so emotionally involved, it becomes really difficult for the person to come out of that situation. She knows, or he knows, that relationship is not healthy for her or for him. She's, it's affecting her self-esteem. it's affecting everything in her life, but she's afraid or he's afraid. So it doesn't only apply to married people, of course. I would say more those, because when you marry, supposedly you've chosen the person, you really made sure that the person is right for you. I mean,
yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, whether you are married or in a committed relationship, you are with someone, that decision to move on can be very difficult, extremely difficult, because you start weighing what you have, what you're not going to have after you decide to move on. But you cannot let that period of recovering from the breakup, which is quite hard, to stop you from making a decision that's going to help you, because I believe what can make a person decide to move on from a relationship is if you have no happiness whatsoever. And please don't use this as an excuse to go and break up, right?
Of course not.
But for example, if the person is unhappy, is abused verbally and physically, and nothing's right or has been right in that relationship, there could be time, or this could be the time for you to move on. It's not an excuse, but you have to.
Or here I come again to talk about the single ones. Is if you're in a relationship where the guy or the girl is so needy, you can see that the person has issues, unresolved issues from a past relationship, or even from childhood. The person needs some kind of support, therapy, I don't know, and has some kind of anger problem. It could be many things. Has a very, has an addiction that you're not able to deal with, that could, lead you to having problems also in the future. So this is something that, rings, the alarm bell. You have to be careful and know when to, this is not for me.
And of course, sometimes, for example, if the person has an addiction, like Elena was saying, or the person is very needy, sometimes there's a case where you help the person and they were able to overcome that problem and problem solved. You are together. But I think you need to think like this. If you've tried every single thing you could think of and the person hasn't changed and you are unhappy, you feel for your safety, you feel the relationship you're dating, like Elena was saying, and you feel the relationship's not really going anywhere. You feel the person's playing with your feelings, is not really taking things seriously. Making that decision to move on can be daunting, can be stressful, but perhaps is an important chapter of your life where you decide to move on, right?
Yeah, because you can't forget the person, can't forget what do I want? Oh, I want to be happy. Okay, you need to be more specific. What do you understand by happiness? Oh, I want someone who loves me, who will care for me. Maybe you're still dating. Then you have to see, like I always say, and here I come again, you need to see the signs. If the person is not wanting to change, because as you said, it's not fair. We're not telling people, oh, any slight problem, just leave the person. No, but if you see that the person has a problem with cheating, it's like an addiction. It's like, they don't know how not to do it. The person lies like there's no tomorrow. They lie. They have serious problems. Then, you just have to be honest with yourself and say, you know what? This is not what I want. And don't be like, oh, but maybe he's stable financially. And you are like, oh, this could work out for us because we are more or less at the same, in the same page financially, we have a career, but that's not all. Yeah.
And so the thing is this, look, it's difficult to make that decision, but you have to be ready to do it. If that relationship is not helping you or the person, it's not going anywhere, don't be afraid to make a decision because it's going to be painful. Because you can overcome that. And actually, in the second half of this show, we're going to be hearing from someone, an expert, who deals with couples, deals with advising couples, people in relationships, and he's going to tell us important steps to overcome a breakup, the pain of a breakup. Don't avoid making a decision that you need to make. I think this is the key. If you know you need to make that decision, don't avoid making it because it's going to be painful afterwards. Okay? Now, we have some tips here on how to help with your self-esteem if you want to feel better about yourself. Sometimes doing a little makeover can help, can do wonders for you, right?
Or just go out shopping, simply. You know, because sometimes, honestly, sometimes the partner, he's so, depending on if the person is already married, they are so like, oh, can I treat myself? No, you can't wear makeup, you can't do anything. So the person is like, she's not herself. She's in that kind of relationship. That's not, you know, good. So it's good for you now. You are no longer in an abusive relationship. You know, just do that. Treat yourself. Go out with the girls. Look at some dresses and see what happens, isn't it?
We prepared a video for you to watch now. Something you can do to help to motivate you to improve your self-esteem. It doesn't solve your problems. Shopping can help to make you feel better, but it doesn't solve your problems. But this maybe is going to help you to have a day where you feel better and you want to invest back in yourself again. Have a look. We're going to come back to hear from an expert on how to overcome breakups. We'll be right back.
I'm here at Image Boutique and we're going to be seeing some of the new trends of 2013. We have some models here and they're going to show some lovely outfits for us. Laura, tell me about the outfit you've got on. What have you picked out, or would you usually wear this?
This is not something that I would usually wear. In fact, the stylist picked it out for me when we were trying out different outfits. I certainly would never wear a scarf. I think that it's because of my small stature. I think a scarf makes me look even smaller, but I absolutely love it. If anything, it's elongating the body. The gilet, I'd never wear this because it's got cutouts here, and for any woman who is of a fuller size and an older age, which I am both of those, it makes you more aware of your body, so it's showing all of the curves, it's showing everything. The jean jeggings are so comfortable, they really are, and I absolutely love them, and these I am definitely buying, together with the gilet, possibly the scarf. Ooh. And then the jewellery we added for a look, and I absolutely am in love with the jewellery. And in fact, I think I might be walking out with that as well.
Claudia, how are you?
Okay, thank you.
So tell me about your dress. Would you normally have picked this dress?
No, really. Normally I would go for fitted dresses and short. But long dresses really is not really my first priority. So it was great anyway. That's what encouraged me anyway to try on, and I think it's fantastic. It's really good.
It's absolutely beautiful, and this pattern here, the diamantes, and you know the colours.
Absolutely, I think this is a dress for winter and summer. I can wear this one in a summer ball, or I've got a charity coming up, which will be perfect. So I think this definitely can do all the jobs. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I loved it. Yeah, and I love the colours as well.
Brilliant.
Hi everyone, we're here with Owen Redahan, who usually talks to people who want to work on their self-esteem and people who go through relationship problems. We want to know from you, moving on from a breakup, how difficult is it?
Can be very, very difficult. I mean, a breakup is almost like having a death. It's the death of what you believed was going to be your future. You know, when two people get together, they plan, they look forward, they think they're compatible, and then at some point something happens and one of them decides that actually this isn't the relationship they want.
It could be like what? Like betrayal, like a lie?
It can be anything. You know, usually it's somebody just says, you know, I don't fancy you anymore, or somebody unfortunately has a little bit on the side and then it gets discovered and everything like that. So it's where you reach the stage where you have to say, actually, this isn't the relationship that I want for my future.
For example, I heard what you said before we started recording, that, you know, it's natural, it's like a death. You lost, there was a hope that you would end up together, have a life together. But don't you think that sometimes people tend to put too much expectations? Is that how? On
the relationship?
On the person.
Yes, I mean,
the person is not perfect. And then when they see that, you know, they forgot about themselves, everything is the person. If the person doesn't call them, it was a bad day. If the person doesn't send an email, he doesn't love me anymore. And then if they break up, eventually her life is over.
Well, it's usually, yes, I mean, it depends on what stage of the relationship, though, that the breakup occurs. So, for instance, if the relationship's in the first 6 to 9 months, that is very hormonal driven. It's very physical, it's very focused. And, you know, you want to spend the time, you want to spend 24 hours a day with the person. If, you know, you move on from that, I mean, there are couples who stay together because there are children and they feel that they should stay together and they manage their relationship, but then the children leave and then one says, no, I'm going to split up with you now. So it really does depend on what stage the relationship is at.
And of course, the important thing is to remember that if you have a breakup, your life is not over, right?
It feels like it's over. In seriousness, like it's a big death, it's your future. And you have to work through that. You have to accept that that is what you feel, but your life isn't over, that's right.
It's important to remember that there is a future, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what would you say are the important things to do after a breakup so you can recover, although it can be sometimes a lengthy process? What do you think is important for the person to do?
Take time. Don't rush things. Don't rush out and start dating the next person. Talk to your friends or talk to a counsellor if needs be. You know, and also learn from that relationship. You know, it is very unusual for us to find the ideal person the first time. It would be great if we all did, but the likelihood is that we'll have a number of relationships that don't work, and learn from those relationships. You know, you might discover that you don't like a person who only eats red meat, for instance. That might be a big problem for you. And just look at your relationship and decide. And from there on, you can then look at your future relationships.
And actually, if the person thinks about it, then if you made a mistake or a couple of mistakes in a relationship and you learned from that, or whether it was your choices, then actually your chances of finding the right person afterwards are a lot better off.
Much improved. But the other thing you need to do is also stop and look at what you want out of the relationship. One of the things that happens to us is that, you know, we see somebody we fancy and we jump into it. But actually the person you fancy physically might not actually be the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, because what we go into is the physical becomes less important, the intimacy becomes more important. The fact that you argue isn't a problem as long as you want to sort out that argument.
Also, what would you say that a friend, for example, usually when someone breaks up, you have the friends come over and say, it's going to be okay, let's go out. As you said, you have to give it some time. But what can a friend or family member do? Because some cases are quite like the person thinks of suicide, committing suicide. What can a family member do to help? Or if the person is by herself, because maybe she doesn't have anyone.
Well, if you've got family members, or if you've got friends, then what I'd suggest for the family members and friends is just to give the person the opportunity to talk. Just express. Get those feelings out, get the anger out, because, you know, the person is going to go through these angers and why was I so stupid and why didn't I see it coming and all of those sort of things. Let them get those things out and then try and talk to them. But don't go and say, you know, oh well, he was a right so-and-so, I knew it from the very start. Because so if you're a good friend, you know, well, if you were a good friend, you should have given that opinion at the start, sort of thing. So, you know, let's not lie to try and support. If you're by yourself, and that would be a very unfortunate situation, if the relationship is what you were dependent on, is then perhaps go and see somebody professionally, go and see a counsellor and talk it through with them.
And the important thing also to remember, something you touched on even when we were discussing here before we started recording, is that just because a person had a breakup, it doesn't mean that there was something wrong with them. It just means that the relationship didn't work and you've learned something from it and try to move on. Right?
Absolutely, and thanks for reminding me about that point. Is in fact, a lot of people think, what's wrong with me? And in fact, what they should be doing is looking and saying, what was wrong with the relationship? Why didn't the two of us, because it takes two people in a relationship, and why was it the two people didn't match up? You know, we all have our differences, we all have our positive and our negatives, and what we look for is somebody who will balance those out.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what you said, it wasn't the right person, so you
Move
will
on.
eventually,
Yeah.
exactly.
And in any breakup or any situation that happened that didn't work, the person can always learn and put that to experience and move on. And like we said earlier, there's a much better chance of finding the right person after that with what you've learned.
Because you've got a better idea of who you are looking for and who will be good for you, who will match up with you.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And what we hope that will happen is that you'll understand, like we said earlier, that although it may feel like it's all over now after a breakup, actually, in a few months' time, hopefully you'll be looking back, or even before that, and laughing and seeing that you've learned a lot and you can be happy, and hopefully then you'll be in a better, happier relationship. Now you see, a very important point that I want to pick up on is what we were saying, Elena, that a lot of people think that if they break up, there was something wrong with them. Either they weren't good enough, or they weren't man enough or woman enough. And a breakup never means that there was something wrong with you. And for you to move on is important that you understand that. It doesn't mean there was something wrong with you. It just meant the relationship didn't work, right?
Yeah, and especially if this happens to a woman. A woman is naturally, and some men too, deep down they are quite insecure. Not because, they don't love themselves, but because of what you see happening around you. People, they betray a lot more than many years ago. They exchange partners very easily. They just, I don't like you anymore. Things like that. So it can, or maybe the person doesn't see herself as beautiful as other women. So that also plays a big role on how they feel afterwards.
So an important part is this: don't think there's something wrong with you. Second thing, it's also very important that you understand that you can take that relationship that now is over and learn something from it, and say, look, it didn't work because of this, because I chose the wrong person maybe, or I didn't see the signs, like you always say, right, Lena? And you move on. Now, something very important we were talking about is that when you're trying to move on from a relationship, it's important that you clean up your house, your phone, your computer, of any memories you may have of that person.
This is very important. I agree with you 100%. Why? Because we hear many cases, the person was abused in that relationship, the person was betrayed several times. I mean, it was beyond repair, so they separated. But the person from time to time, because the guy knows that she's a bit, I don't know the word. So he tries to call her and she's like, maybe we can go out, doesn't mean anything. And the person goes back, and then the guy doesn't really want her back. And it's a big mess. I think the person really has to decide, okay, this is not good for me, let me move on.
And what you're saying is so important, that when a person breaks up and then somehow that guy or that girl comes back, somehow people only seem to remember the good parts. But you broke up for a reason, right? You didn't break up just because of the good parts. You broke up because there was more bad than good, maybe. So it's important that you have your house plastered with pictures of the person, even after you broke up. I mean, how are you ever going to overcome that? Every time you walk past your living room and you see those pictures, you're always going to remember what was, and you're going to want to come back. So it's important that dies, right?
When something like this happens, you're changing your life. You're changing your life.
It's like moving house.
Yeah, you are changing. You are changing many things. You are learning from what happened. So you are even becoming someone else. You are changing who you are because you are maturing. Something else, something different happened to you. You saw things that you didn't see before. You learned about yourself, how you are, and you also decide, no, this relationship was an abusive one, was not good for me, was not healthy. So I would even dare to say that you should even write a list of the main points of why you left. I mean, you decided, no, this person is not good for me, because some of them are really worth reminding yourself of.
And you know, I was just talking to a couple recently. A very interesting story. We're going to try to bring them on the program here. The gentleman was married for 35 years. 35 years. And then all of a sudden, you know, a big problem happened and they got divorced. And he thought, you know, that's it. 35 years down the drain, how am I ever going to find someone? And maybe a lot of people think like this. They think, you know, I'm never going to find anybody anymore. That's it. That was my chance of being happy. But it wasn't. It wasn't.
It's such a lie, isn't it?
It's a lie. And actually, he was saying that shortly after that breakup, he found someone and got married and has been with that person for 4 years. And he was telling me that these are the best 4 years of my life. So an end of a relationship does not have to mean an end of your life.
So like he said, people are not even likely to find the right person the first time they date. So, you know, it's not something that people should like beat themselves up like, oh, I'm not going to find anyone anymore. I know that the person at home might say, oh, it's easier said than done. I know it's hard to go through, I imagine. But, you know, sometimes this kind of situation is part of life. It's about you making other choices, you moving on.
That's right. And you know, a broken relationship, let's put it like this. You need to see that as part of your experience in life, right? You learned what to do, you learned what not to do. And you can now use that so that when you move on, when you're ready to move on to another relationship, hopefully that will be the right one, then you will know exactly what to look for in a person, what not to look for. Chances are that you went through something in your previous relationship, a trait that you saw in that person that you wouldn't want in your new partner. So when you move on, you are able to identify that. So actually, like Owen said, you are at an advantage. At an advantage because you are able now to identify what's wrong and to move on, right?
And even if the person despised you, oh, I don't want you anymore. You know, sometimes, you know what, they're lost. Just move on, be happy. You know, don't be, and you know, something else you could learn from the whole breakup thing. Never surrender completely to a person before you know if the person really deserves you. Your life, because when you get together with someone, when you decide to marry someone, you are giving your life to the person. It's not a game. You are giving your life to the person. What you like to do, the things, your passions in life, your dreams, everything's going to be also in another person's hands. It's like you're going to be living together, you're going to become one. So you don't want to do this just to anyone and then feel lost because the person didn't appreciate you after all.
And you know, it's a fact of life, unfortunately, that people do break up. Sometimes you break up when you're dating, when you're married, when you've been with someone for a long time. And whatever the situation is, one thing is for sure, it's always hard to overcome that. But once you decide to move on, once you decide to learn from what happened, then you are on the right track to have a successful relationship in your future. Okay? Remember that and put that down to experience. And I'm sure that very soon you'll be smiling because things will be very different. Okay? It's been a pleasure to have you here with us. Until next time, have a wonderful night.